Good morning, everyone, and hope you have a wonderful morning. Happy August, and let's have some coffee. How are you guys doing? So, today we have an interesting chapter because we need to kind of speed up with our dogs' timeline because very often we see people are disconnected. They're on their phones while they're walking the dog, they're afraid when they're walking the dogs, they feel disconnected. And dogs try to communicate to us. If we look closer to the dog's behavior and we look closer into the dog's being, we see that dogs are living in the present. It's not just a saying dogs live in the present, but in fact, everything that happens, it happens right that moment. The dog is being triggered, he has a response. He has a response based on his experience. He's not responding based on his memory. In that case, I would say not his memory the way we think it is. For example, let's say he sees another dog on the other side of the street. What is going in the dog's mind right that moment? What is going on in our moment? Let's snapshot that a little bit and talk about that. Hi, I'm Roman with Holistic Dog Training, and I want to have coffee with you. I'm gonna talk about stuff. So, just a heads up, we don't know where that heads, but some viewers may find our following video disturbing and viewer discretion advised. So, if you feel sensitive about certain stuff about dogs and you have a certain philosophy in mind that you don't want to go and think beyond that, it's a good time to get a coffee. So, today we're going to talk about how to be in the moment. Present moment. Is it possible for us to be in the present moment? And what exactly does that mean? So, I feel we should um, look at this whole picture from a wider angle. Let's say, for example, we're walking our dogs, we're walking down the street, and sorry, and right that moment, we see a situation, we see another person coming up with a dog, and it's upsetting. Let's hold on a little bit. What's happening with the dog? What's happening with the person? So, what usually happens with the dog is the dog sees a situation and the vision goes into the brain and is being processed and being categorized in a positive or a negative potential. Will I survive based on that event, or will I die in that event? So the body response in that moment goes into automatic response. So right that moment, the dog is conscious of how he feels, the environmental factors, and what's happening in front of him. Let's stop there. Let's go to the person. When we have a person, let's say for example, a regular person never had an incident with his dog, what's going on in his mind? Okay, I'll think of myself a little bit. A couple of years back, I was walking my dog, proud walking my dogs because I am Mr. Good Guy, having lots of dogs on my leash, walking all over the place, and make good impression to my neighbors because I was fishing clients. What's going on in my mind? What's going on in my body? So as I walk down the street, I'm walking down the street being in a fear response. I'm not having enough clients. My, I need to get more clients. How do I pay my mortgage? How do I afford, cost of living? And how do I have my business expense covered? All of a sudden, the whole thing is going, and I walk out at the door with the leash in my hand, with my dog, in fear as soon as I leave the house. Now, let's look at a little bit on the timeline. How how do we, and you're welcome to discuss here, guys. First of all, where are you from? Where do you watch from? I see a couple of people being out of state. So join the conversation. You're welcome to message below your messages, ask questions. And if you want, and if you have good internet connection, you're welcome to join. Just let me know. I want to join the conversation, and I'll get you sorted out. um, the next thing I want to look for is in that fear state. Where am I in my timeline? Am I in the future, or am I in the past, or am I in the present? I would say, if I think back in time, I was in the past. I was in a fear state because I had experienced turmoil in my business multiple times. So my brain was, oh my God, I need more clients because of my past experience. So I was there remembering all these bad emotions that I have associated, around my living while I was walking my dog. Now all of a sudden we see the disconnect. The dog is now has to face a situation while I'm in the past worrying about my problems. Now dogs are highly intelligent and are sentient beings. I would say, beside the human, I feel these dogs are the most evolved emotional species that we are with in the same household. And I feel we should be very careful how we place that. We are in a situation where dogs are trying to send us a clear message. I'm here dealing with this crap while you are all over the place. And right that moment, that dog needs support. Right that moment, there is a situation in progress, and he needs your full attention. And where we are not here. So it's the dog has to deal on his own. So the first response the dog does is naturally and evolved up to the 40,000 years we, at least scientifically speaking, live with dogs. I believe we're more than that, like 100,000 years at least. Um, the first response will be, what's going on in my environment? Who is attached to me? So he will feel you not being the present and see you your past. So he recognizes that you are not aware what's happening right now. And that's worrisome. So the dog is forced to deal on his own in that event. So how would that play out for him? Now, once the dog responds and shows a behavior like fun, he wants to jump on you, he wants to do something, he wants to get your attention, he's trying to pull you forward, you are coming back in the present suddenly and see out of your surprise, what the heck is going on here? My dog's pulling on the leash. Oh, there's something going on. Ooh, bad dog. That's not right. So we just got woken up from our past, brought in the future in this leash time machine, while the dog is struggling and has to make a final decision what to do with the problem right there at that moment. So, how do you think the dog will feel about that? How about, simply an example, you're sitting with your partner on the co-driver seat and your partner is driving the car and you see he's kind of like stargazing while driving the car, and you're like, "Hey, honey, pay attention." And he's like, "Yeah, I know." And you're like, "Watch out, it's a red light." And he's like, "Oh," and steps on the brake. How would you feel about if that happens twice? Are you feeling secure driving in that car with your partner on the steering wheel? Because I would not. Now, your dog goes every day out for a walk with you on a leash. You guys start at the door, open the door, you go outside. Right that moment, the moment you open that door, your mind slides away into the past or into the future. Thinking about business, thinking about your worries. You take your dog out because you want to get rid of your stress. And all of a sudden you recognize, or the dog recognizes that you're gone before you guys even leave the door. How can we change that? How can we be actually in the physical present? Is this happening to you guys? It happened to me a lot in the past, and it was a great wake-up call when a couple of years back, where I was, talking about being in the present, blah blah blah, but actually I was technically speaking not, because I was theoretically there, but in reality I was not, until I recognized that everything that I do overall, I'm always being in the past and not in the present. Now, in a human society, being only in the present, it's kind of strange. We see people are weird. We call people awkward. Like, I don't feel going to work today. How would that go? I don't like to go to work. I just have coffee and talk to people, right? And all of a sudden, we are brought back into the present or in the future. If I don't go to work, I will be thrown out by the work because I will be late. So what happens with us humans, we are pendling between past and the present, sorry, past and future, passing a little bit in the present. So we're kind of like a pendulum, past, future, past, future. So the more active we are, the more energetic we are, the more we're vibrating between past and future. It becomes kind of like a vibration. Now that vibration feels a certain way. And for you guys who are um, empaths, and you feel people vibrating, and you hear people voices vibrating, you recognize that there's something going on here. At least the solar plexus has an issue. So I would say the solar plexus, if we see it energetically, is the time barrier between the present and the future, or the present and the past. Well, the diaphragm is the present, and beyond and before that, it's the past and the future. So I would say the belly is the past, and the chest is the future. So what we want to do here is we want to kind of like go into that space. If you want to join me at some point, I'm going to do a breathing exercise. Kind of get into the present moment. So by saying so, I would like you to put in the word chi flow, and I will connect those dots between humans and dogs. Chi flow is chi is being called the life force. Okay, don't go me to Star Wars. We're talking about energy here, right? So the life force is basically an active energy flow that we call life. You're living because your energy is flowing. If that flow stops completely, you're dead, right? Dogs are very active in their chi flow. I would say animals in general are these chi flowing energy machines that are flowing their energy in multiple ways, and they have this amazing way to keep it pumping through breath. So we see a dog panting. What is he doing? He's pulsating his diaphragm up and down and up and down and up and down, pushing consciously present, future, past, constantly back and forth by compressing it. So the belly basically relies on the past. Did I have food in the past? Am I missing food? So if I have a problem with my past, I need the future to be better. I'm just symbolic here, right? And so what's happening through this breathing, I'm pushing my belly and I'm using my chest to start vibrating it. So if we look into the life force, we need to bring life force through our body. So we start with the breath. We breathe it in our chest, we bring in oxygen, and I'm not going into details of biology, okay, keep it very simple. So we breathe in oxygen and we expect our lungs to move that oxygen into the bloodstream, and from the bloodstream into our blood system. And from the blood system, I want to invite my dear friend Marco Ada. So he's preparing himself. Hi, Marco. I got you off guard. Buongiorno.
Buongiorno, Roman. Just a moment. Let me put all up
Gotcha. So
because I was driving.
we're just talking about chi flow and how people. I'm walking through the chi flow breathing. You're welcome to step in at some point. So as we breathe in, we breathe in the oxygen. We go into consciously breathing in, pushing our oxygen into the bloodstream through the heart, and all of a sudden now we consciously breathing our blood throughout our body system into each individual cell. And as I talk, I get goosebumps because I'm consciously thinking about that. So as I breathe in, my lung will transport that oxygen into my bloodstream. The heart will push that bloodstream to all this body, to each individual cell of my body and my brain. And then suddenly that life force, my force of living, goes into each individual cell and removes all the old information that is in there and all this debris from the cell memories and from the cell walls away into back into the bloodstream, back into the body system. And we're focusing on the oxygen right now because we need more of that. So we have to remove carbon dioxide from our body system. Did I say carbon monoxide or dioxide? Anyway, back into the back system and out of our mouth. So that is important because if we can move that around consciously, we're basically moving around any blockages we have too. So if you go back to the dog, why the dog is panting if he's stressed, he does not want to create energetic blockages. His whole body system tries to get rid of any blockages that comes in and makes that system clogged. Imagine you have a water hose and you make a knot in it, and all of a sudden, one side that has the pressure will blow up, while the other one is empty. And if that happens, the first thing the dog will do is shaking it off, tries to loosen up his fascia tissue to get this blockage out of his system. Marco, how about you? You do breathing exercise because you're also behind the behaviorist, beside behaviorists, beside doing animal studies with humans. You are an anthrozoologist too, but you also teach theater, right? You have a background in theater.
Yes, background in theater, and interestingly, the type of theater I've been studying is not much to do with performing per se, but is about human development and human research. Um, Actually, there are different disciplines in that type of theater that converge into that type of theater, including yoga, including studying physiology, including studying neuroscience, including studying psychology, right?
Yep,
This is the is also known was also known somehow as the third theater back in the 20th century. So
yep, yep.
yeah, so it's really a place of research and exploration and rediscussion of human being and society, right? In that context, you really need to be self-observant and work on yourself, and that's the model of being an actor, that the actor model that theater um, proposes is that the actor is the example of how human being, the best example of how human being can reformulate itself, right? So of course, with all these element with all of those elements, breathing as a type of focus on as a type of work, it comes in different ways into the work of uh, being an actor or being a director in that type of theater. It can come directly through some disciplines, through some practices, through some exercises, or so specifically working on breathing, or indirectly, so working, for example, on movements, working on staging a character, but still a certain degree of attention is on breathing. So bottom line is that we need to have awareness of how that works for each of us. We need to have a certain degree of understanding and control of how that works on us and how that works on others, because ultimately what that represents is a key also to understanding our emotions, which is, you can imagine, is crucial in the work of an actor.
right?
And so shifting on another realm, that is the dog realm, which is not really another realm, is all interwoven, is all connected, but is still a human being in the dog realm. When dogs are interacting with their humans, is still the same thing. It's still about, through the presence of a dog, understanding better ourselves and understanding better our emotions, right? So
Yeah, yeah.
breathing in that case is also part of the picture.
I totally agree with you. Now, I was very lucky in being in Greece. I went to the Asclepius Theater. Asclepius was a sanctuary, a healing sanctuary, and Asclepius is our father of medicine and holistic medicine. So he had a very interesting setting. He has this trauma release sanctuary where you went in, you stayed there for a couple of weeks, and you went through a process of finding yourself, coming in the present, dig out your traumas and your fears, and then the finals were in a theater. Let me show you the size of that theater because it's big.
It's big.
It's big. So it's that big. There are 30,000 people sitting in that theater. Now, in this tiny little spot in the very front, you see this small person on the bottom. This is where the theater acting came across. So what people would do there, the actors would do, they would basically play the role of representing the average emotional state of those 30,000 people. So these people had to be in the present moment, channeling that energy that is missing, what those people have to work on. And some people will question, like, what the heck are you talking about? I thought we were going to talk about dogs. I'm getting there. Because when we see how these people can connect with each other emotionally over distance, in time space, and these actors can channel the traumas of those 30,000 people that are leftovers to deal with, our dogs are emotional intelligence too, and they pick up how the emotional state of their team players are. They need to know the difference between a predator and a prey right that moment. So if we are walking our dog, we are basically playing that theater where the dog is in front, acting, and he's channeling what's missing from us because he has to protect it. He either has to step up for those missing gaps between me and the dog. So if I'm not confident, my dog has to be confident. If I'm scared, my dog has to be protective. If I'm confident, my dog will chill out. If I'm confident, my dog is cool about it. So we see that if we're not in the present moment, we are not in alignment with our dog who is in the present moment. So we have this differential behavior, and the dog has to deal with it. Have you seen that working? Because you work also online and you work also with local people. But what I'm pointing out here, especially because you're working with free roaming dogs, right? And you have experienced how dogs will act with each other, not being as pets and not being confined places like we have in a house. How do they act with each other? Are they all over the place? Like, oh, I'm sorry, I cannot play with you because I have trauma. Oh, you know what? I'm really scared about you, and I don't know how to connect with you because you're all over the place. Are these kind of mental conversations going on there?
Yeah, that the most important aspect, I would say, is that because free ranging dogs um, receive very little, if not at all, influence from humans, they are free to behave according to their own choice, right? They're not conditioned. Conversely to what would happen to a typical dog in some Western countries, in the US, in Europe, or Australia, a dog that is living a restricted lifestyle and has a human that also choose for the type of interaction that that dog can or cannot have, or the type of behavior that a certain dog can or cannot display within a certain situation, right? In the case of free ranging dogs, they are free to choose for themselves. And to some extent, that is the pillar of a way more balanced conversation among dogs, right? Because dogs are free to choose, because dogs are free to express if they feel uncomfortable in all the way they consider appropriate in that specific moment. Because every moment requires different communication tools, different meta communication signals, and so on, right? But if they can freely and fully communicate that they feel uncomfortable by being shy or by being slightly also by showing some uh, the beginning of what may be considered aggression, while in fact is not, because it never escalates. It's unlikely it escalates, right? So, but saying, "Hey, don't come closer," or "Hey, I'm really disappointed with that," right? So,
Get
yeah,
out of my
something this
face.
type,
I'm
they can
talking.
express that in so many ways, with their tail, with their paw. Nobody's gonna put the leash on them and do not allowing them to fully express by their body. Nobody's gonna call them and condition what they're expressing to others. Nobody's gonna throw a ball to them to distract them from something that is happening over there. You know, there's no interference. So because of all of that, they have way more way of communicating, and consistently with that, they cope much better in social, in avoiding conflict, or just um, communicating with each other, socialize when they want to socialize, stay keeping a distance when they want to keep a distance, right? So of course, what you were saying a moment ago, on which I completely agree, because we always agree, we always are aligned with what we express. Uh, it's a matter of being empathic, right, with the dog, right, having empathy with our companion dog, and through the breathing, as you were mentioning before, and through observation, and also sometimes I have to say by stepping back a little bit, by what from that point where we believe to know what is always believe to know what is good for our dog, right? So stepping back from that point, so working on ourselves, as we were saying through the theater, right? Reformulating our beliefs, our perception of things, right? And providing space for a dog to express more based on his or her choice. And that's a process of empathy, right? A process of understanding, of compassion, of feeling, giving more
Speaking of
space for a dog to
empathy,
feel,
right,
right?
I have already written down empathy. I was ready for you to say that word. Pup, I got it out there.
Yeah. And so that, it's, you see how all of those elements converge: the theater, the breathing, the empathy, the interaction of dogs and human, the freedom of choosing, and it's a process of attunement, and attunement can happen if we provide space for free expression. So when you observe free ranging dogs, you really have that, you're fortunate enough to observe that process over there, right there, in front of you, fully expressing itself, because they can choose for themselves. And in some
I
cases, some companion dogs too can, right? If they have some people living with them, some humans, uh, companion, that understand that tune with that frequency and allow them to express themselves in some circumstances,
You
right?
said something very important before, and to go back to that point, because you said free dogs who are free, and then you said this conversation. I believe we are not free as people walking our dogs. We are so restricted, and we project that restriction to everything else. And I feel in order to be in the present moment, we have to get rid of all these environmental restrictions that pushes us away from the present moment. I'm not going political here, but I think it's directly connected that we are so affected by our environment, society, religious beliefs, social beliefs, family beliefs, like, oh, you cannot do this and you cannot do that. And your brain is constantly in the past or in the future trying to avoid all those social conflicts, not being able to be free. A dog really doesn't give a bark if you bark or not. As long as it's not like somebody's attacking us, he minds his own business. If he doesn't want to play with you, he doesn't play with you. He wants to interact with you, he shows it right away, and he responds right that moment, whether or not. So I feel dogs, and I think we're supposed to have about 800 million dogs free roaming around, and about 300 million dogs being like in pet settings or restricted. Um, I feel we should step away from the mindset that dogs are wolves and we get stuck in this situation. We have to understand wolves, but we have 800 million dogs out there that we can look into and learn from them. Plus, we have our own dog to learn from it.
Mm. Yeah.
I feel liberating ourselves from those restrictions is the first step to become present. How do I feel right now? Do I feel anxious? What do I do about it? I start breathing about it. We do that all the time. Okay, I was in the past, I'm scared. I was in a panic mode. Now I'm present. Grounding yourself. How does a dog grounding himself? Can we look into that a little bit? How does a dog in free space that just got out of his restriction escaped a trap, escaped the box, escaped the crate, escaped the yard? What is his first way to ground and get rid of any compensated frustration, anger, trauma? What do you see?
Well, an essential point to highlight here to answer your question is that um, typically free ranging dogs are less reactive to to inputs, to stimuli,
The bubbles.
compared to what an
As
average,
always, always.
yeah, yeah, compared to what an average pet companion restricted dog may do, right? And that's for two reasons. For the rise, first, for the lifestyle itself of a free ranging dogs, because he's exposed to so many more inputs and stimuli that uh, the dog's mind and the emotional range of a dog becomes broader. So it doesn't need to have that quick reaction because he has more tools emotionally also to elaborate what's happening around, right? So in general, dogs, free ranging dogs, responds with more ease to all of the inputs that are happening around them. Of course, if there is a danger, they may detect that danger way earlier than what a pet companion would do. If they need to escape, they would escape anyway. It's not they are not sensitive, they're very sensitive, but they're less reactive, right? And this is the first point, is because of their lifestyle, because they're exposed to many uh, um, inputs and stimuli and different type of stimulations. So they they respond with less reactivity, and they reason. They take time to reason on what's going on, to assess. They look, they smell from far. They look at the movements of people. They look at the movements of other dogs. They look at the movements of birds. They rely way they rely on so many things around them, and their perception is way broader. right? In general, always in general. That doesn't mean that a German Shepherd living in somewhere in Boulder, Colorado, doesn't have that. May have that based on the type of lifestyle that dog has, or the type of breed. Also, it may also influence that type of characteristics, and so on, right? But that's one aspect. The other aspect is again the human influence, because as we have said, the Fringing dogs have little human influence, right? If not at all, right? And while companion dogs, when they react to things, an average, a typical pet companion dogs in a Western country, or Australia, or Italy, or US, or elsewhere, they react to something also based on how their human react to something. And here we have a huge responsibility as humans, as dog companions. We need to be aware of how we are influencing our dogs in terms of reactivity to certain stimuli, right? Because of course we cannot say to which percentage, 30, 40, 70. Sometimes maybe it's not a fixed percent. Certainly it's not a fixed percentage. It's a variable percentage. But let's say, just conventionally, that at least 50% of our companion dog reactions to things depends on how we are reacting to that thing. And if a dog is reacting anxiously, likely is because we are also reacting anxiously to something. It's not always the case, but it may be the case. Sometimes we are not aware of how we react to things, how we respond to something happening out there, right? So this is certainly something that we want to think about and considering, and being introspective and breathing when things are happening. We can breathe and say, okay, I even just putting some attention on my breathing process, the the whole energetic expression of my body changes, the whole emotional expression of my body changes, the whole gut brain heart connection changes, all the cells start to place themselves differently, all the hormones that are produced by my body change. All of those elements are picked up by our dogs. Everything, everything. So we can do a lot just by shifting something, changing something through our breathing and self-awareness and a type of mindfulness somehow that can change how our dog perceives the world and how our dog responds to the world inputs, right?
I agree with you. One thing I want to point out too is that we have to see emotion, and I would need to hear your Latin expertise behind that. What is the word for energy in Italy, or in Italian, or in ancient Roman?
Energia.
Energia. And what is the
For the
expression
electricity, same word for the electricity
movement?
that you have
What
at
is
home.
movement is? How do you call the movement?
The movement, yeah, is same word. It's very confusing.
Okay. And
Energia is the same for the body energy, and
motion.
also the
It's called motion, right? Or motia,
motion,
right?
movimento. Sì, movimento,
Exactly.
movimento.
So
Yeah,
we
but
see that emotion is a breakdown of energy in motion.
yeah,
So if we interrupt anything of that, we create an energetic problem on a dog. If we restrict the dog in motion, we have an escalation of energy and it doesn't go anywhere. So a restricted dog is basically from the beginning restricted to be free, and at the same time he's restricted of being able to interact socially and is being removed from the present moment because of all these restrictions. So if we want to be free, get rid of our, stuck emotions and become back in the present moment, we also will liberate our dogs because we will be on the same timeline. If I am walking my dog and I'm aware what my dog is struggling with, the same time my dog is struggling with, then we're creating a team. If a group of dogs are walking down the street in Bali, and you know Bali better than I do, of course, because you specialize there working with Bali dogs, they are constantly aware of each other, locations, and emotional state. If somebody's in trouble, everybody knows that right that moment. Nobody needs to bark about it. They're kind of a solid group from 3 to 13 dogs in average. Now, how can these multiple dogs live together without getting in fights all the time? Yes, they have disputes, but they can solve it right that moment. They're not taking it over the future. They don't talk to each other because they don't like it right now. They're friends now, tomorrow they're not. And then they're back friends again. Why? Because they did something that didn't fit the purpose in the group and they have to leave. But they come back again differently, they're back in the group. We don't have that. We're totally lost. I'm going down the street and I see people looking at me because I have my dog looks like a pit bull. Like, oh, how can you walk down the street? The dog shouldn't be alive at all. Where are those people? In the present, in the future? But definitely not in the moment because they would see in the moment that I'm walking calmly my dog on a leash. They don't see that. They see whatever they're coming timeline from the past, from the future, from fear perspective, from trauma perspective. So if you would have a tip to those people who want to be in the present, like they want to take the dog out for a walk, how can you be in the present right there?
Yeah, to maybe to provide a simple and easily applicable tip, I would say just tend to slow down, right? Just try to slow down a little bit. Slow down in the sense like take the time, every action you do, take the time to feel it, to be mindful in that moment, right?
Yeah.
Um, don't skip the steps, right? You're putting the leash on your dog because you're going out. Notice the details, right? Notice the sound of it, of that click putting the leash or the harness on a dog, that clack, clack, click, open the door. Be mindful in every moment you do, in every action. Don't skip all of those things because if you skip all of those things and we focus on the target to get to the park, um, we are missing a lot of important information that every moment, every experience can provide. And those information, those elements can support us in feeling calmer, in feeling more the moment, in being more in the moment, and as a consequence, supporting our dogs in attuning with us and us in attuning with the dog and feeling in that moment, right? When we skip all of those elements, as we do anyway, because in life, in with all the busy life we have, we are no longer used to notice those elements. We are no longer used in general to being mindful of every action we do, as we would teach in, as we would learn in theater, as we would learn in yoga and meditation, as we would learn in a mindfulness course, for example, right? But in a general life, we are lost that ability. We don't have that as a normal uh, mechanisms. We need to put, we need to decide, okay, now I'm going to do this with this type of intention, right? I put the glass, I put it, I feel when this plastic touches my head and when this comes close and touches my nose. I try to feel every moment, right? This type of, should clean the glasses anyway. But
You're very conscious of your moment right now. Like, what is it? Where am
yeah,
I?
yeah. And, that type of intensity. that is no longer part of our life because we're so busy and we are so rushy in everything we do, and and unfortunately must not, without unfortunately, it is that it is what it is. But so if we are able to tune with that frequency, with that life, that type of awareness, that type of attention, that per se will bring our breathing lower, at a lower pace, will bring our heart at a lower pace, will bring our brain at a lower pace, right? Our brain goes from alpha to theta, right? So, and so the brain waves also calms down, becomes a different state, right? And then the dog feels that. And that's when you don't need to speak long. You no longer need to talk with your dog to give information, because
That's it.
to give, to say anything, you know, the dog is just with you and you are with the dog. You're attuned, you can go everywhere, just moving in the space, large space or a smaller space, from a huge beach to the 1 square foot or 3 square foot in on your kitchen. Regardless of the size of a space, you are attuned, you are on that frequency, and you become, when that happens, we human become way more reliable in the perception of a dog than in any other circumstances. And that's when a dog start to trust fully and completely you, because you are a reliable member of the group, member of the pack, if you want, because you are centered, you are calm, you're mindful in what you do, right? So of course, actually that's not that easy, as I was saying at the beginning, to reach as a state of mind. But to be practical, maybe when we are spending time with our dogs, try all of those actions that we do with our dogs, putting the harness, the leash, preparing some food, preparing food, or petting the dog, or brushing the dog, whatever we do, little things, but we can try to catch that intention, that level, that frequency, and that will change the perception your dog has of
It's
of
funny that
you,
you say
right?
that.
That's
When
crucial.
I work with clients online, and I mean, I work with mastiff breeds and dogs who are aggressive on the leash, aggressive to people, and I noticed that 90% of those issues stem because the dog is not in an emotional relationship with the handler. They're disconnected. The dog feels alone, he doesn't feel protected, he feels insecure, he feels unsafe, he's forced to react in a way he doesn't know how to react responsibly, and he gets into trouble. The people are usually behind, the corrections. They correct what they see the dog create. They not help the dog out in that event. So I tell them to, hey, you have to be aware of your emotional state right that moment. Where are you? And I give them that this formula: energy plus motion plus moment is an emotional awareness. If you're not aware of your energy, and if you're not aware of your body language and your movements, and you're not aware of that particular moment, you're not emotional aware. And if you're not emotional aware, you're disconnected with your dog, and your dog feels threatened, and he feels alone in that situation. Not only has to protect himself, he has to protect you too. Usually, guarding dogs, big dogs, guardian breeds have especially that problem. Shepherds, border collies, you name it. Most of the dogs have these issues. If they're exposed to a problem and there is no support for backup, they have to handle it. And some dogs don't know how to handle it. So they go into a fear response, freeze, fight, or flight, instead of turning around, flirt with the problem, and then ask for a favor from their owner to help them out in a situation they need help with. So I tell people, before you go for a walk, the first thing I want you to do, and you mentioned that already, hold the hold the leash in your hand and wait for your dog to give you a feedback. Stay away from routines. The routines is just to create a job description, then go back to a ritual. Theatre is a ritual. Relationship is a ritual. Dog relationship is a ritual. It has to confirm every time, are you on the same page than I am? So I'm holding a leash. I'm expecting the dog to do something that makes me give him that leash. Right now, I'm in the moment becoming aware of myself and my dog and wait for the opportunity to reward him for that behavior. Good job. Click.
Mm.
And my dog sees me as a response, says, oh, if I'm calm and he feels calm right now, this is how I get my leash on. And the next step is now I have expectation from you because I expect you to open the door. Yes, I will open the door if I feel that you're calm. So all of a sudden it becomes a give and take of emotional exchange. It doesn't need any verbal. You don't need to tell your dog to sit. He will do it himself. You don't tell your dog how to calm down. You just need to hold space for him. So if you're anxious because your dog is excited, then who's going to take this to the next level? If you reward your dog by touching that doorknob for him being wrong according to your perspective, then you basically reward him of being disconnected.
Yeah.
And I feel the only way to change the dog's behavior that is because of that lack of emotional relationship in that moment is for you to finally get in place and says, hey, wait a minute. How do I feel about that moment? If I feel embarrassed how my dogs behave down the road, that's not helping my dog. That puts my dog in a position he cannot handle. And if I cannot hold space for my dog right that moment, then I shouldn't take my dog for a walk. I should go alone, get my shit together, and come back again, and then I take my dog for a walk. And don't take my phone with me. Bad example here, preaching to the choir. So leave your phone behind. If you want to talk to your phone, grab a video, take a picture or something, pull over, stop, give your dog some freedom, tell him to be free, do whatever he wants to do, on the leash, of course, because in the US we have leash laws. Some environments do not have those leash requirements. But if your dog is a good in your call, take the leash off, pay attention to him, play with him a little bit, put him back a leash on, sit down, play with your phone while your dog is chewing something that you have with you. So you and your dog doing something in that moment. While you're on Facebook, the dog is chewing on his bone, so everybody's busy, and they don't have to have that emotional relationship that moment. So everybody can mind his business.
Mm.
And usually changes that in less than a month, from aggressive to present, from fearful to present, from trauma into healing. But the dog cannot do that alone because we put them in that position. We have to make that change first. We have to become aware first. We have to be centered first. We have to be conscious of our emotions first. So we cannot blame the dog at no way for being
Yeah.
wrong if we are wrong to start with. So
Yeah.
I really appreciate you because we basically covered pretty much a broad spectrum, and I really appreciate you for taking the time, pulling over in the car, become present with us today, and share your experience. What would you tell people as a wake up call? Okay, don't say get your shit together. I said that already. What would you say?
Can you, Salvi, can you say again? There was a car passing by, so I didn't
Okay,
get it.
I
Yeah.
say, what would you say to people like last resort, where you kind of like wake up? I would say get your shit together. Get your shit together, man, before you take the dog out for a walk. So I said that. What do you say about it?
Yeah. Yeah. Take responsibility, the emotional responsibility, right? So, uh, and not just take the responsibility, because I mean, people is very passionate, and we all do our best, what we believe to be the best for our dogs, right? Uh, so people are already very responsible and feel really responsible. It's not that it's a lack of responsibility. Now we need to move that responsibility on another level, right? Which is being responsible by providing food, by providing medical assistance, by providing affection.
Yeah,
These all already acquired, right? Now be responsible or on really dive into that level where you need to transform yourself through your dog, right?
yeah,
Now you really, because there are people that spend their life with their dogs, they're very satisfied, but and maybe they also change through their life as a person, inevitably, because we change every moment, but maybe never get on that frequency where they really have clarity. This canine is arrived in my life to bring a transformation for me, right? So being responsible in that sense, make space once and for true to that possibility. And by doing that, you will see that you will be more introspective, more self-observant, and that itself will change something in your emotional, energetical, breathing, and thinking level, and that will have some consequences for your dog and will be beneficial for both you and the dog, right?
Mhm.
So in that sense, yeah, just if you haven't done it yet, I would say to somebody, make that click once and for good. Now learn from your dog. Put
There's a,
yourself, yeah, put yourself in the center of being the one that is learning, being the one that needs to change something, and that will truly change something for you and in the relationship with your dog.
awesome. So I have um, I want to see somebody commented on the comment. I don't see exactly um, the message here. Let me see who that is. Okay, anyway, I don't see that. So
Hmm.
it says, but now I have trouble because I work at home and I have to disconnect at times from my dog and work. How do you manage that switch? So my answer to that would be, first of all, you have to give your dog permission to not be next to you all the time because we reinforce this, let's say, codependency. We want an independent dog, but we reinforce independence. We reinforce dependency. So give your dog permission when he wants to come up to you because he feels the need, because he's conditioned to that. Tell him to go back to his bed and mind his own business. Give him something to chew on. And if you have time for your dog, call your dog and be 100% present to your dog. If you cannot be present to your dog, release your dog, let him do something else. But some dogs are being so conditioned to be not independent, like be dependent, that they don't know what to do with themselves. So it's being a process, it's being a switching moment from being codependent into becoming independent. Because the dog will feel that as separation anxiety because we cut it off. So you can't just cut it off like a knife. You have to create a smooth transition. It's okay for you to not be with me right now. I don't need you right now with me. I will tell you when I need you right now. And so we did, and especially now through this COVID thing, and people
Mm.
loving working from home, and as Melissa Tomlinson says very well, and she's a woman in business life, and now she's kind of basically at home working with rescue dogs. And in the past, she worked with a dog who came from out of the country. She has that experience how those dogs can live in the present and how people were not in the present, and she brought her back. So I feel we need to become aware of that. So she says, as long as physical and emotional needs are met and adequate time daily is spent together, then your pup can have relaxed time and sleeping times where you will
Mm.
naturally be doing your own thing, and that is fine because your pup gets chunks out of time with you every day anyway. So they will still feel confident and comfy. I agree with that. So thank you very much for today, Marco. I
Thank you
really
so
appreciate
much,
you
Roman.
being kind of like short notice coming in. It's like, I want to talk about that. I have something to say about that, of course.
Thank you. Is as we can. It's always a huge pleasure to share and discuss with you. We are always on the same frequency, and I think the work you're doing also by doing those meetings every Saturday and sometimes Sunday also is very important, and I really want to honor that, right? And
I appreciate it.
also a final note on the connection aspect, as somebody was mentioning in a message. This is something that we need to stretch. What perception we have on how we are connected with our dog, right? Is sometimes is like a like in communication, right? If we are in person, we can talk and we are connected by voice, and then we are into different village, and we can be connected by cable of the phone, right? The old phone cables, right? But then we are into different states, and we are connected by Wi-Fi, right? And we can still communicate, right? and then we are in two different forests, one side and the other side of the world, and we are connected on feeling, emotional communication, by heart, by other spiritual means, meaning spiritual cables, right? Some other. So really, we need to stretch the perception we have about being connected with our dogs, because in many cases it can be having a direct interaction. In other cases it can be really just the dog is there or the other room or whatever, and I'm working on my computer, but my heart is still pumping with that perception of the dog, in the presence of the dog around me. And dogs, that type of connection is also a very reliable connection that is very balancing for dogs. When dogs feel that type of connection, that is not, let's say, is not an agitated, emotional, aroused connection, but is a more calm, distant, and just based on presence connection. That's also very important for dogs. Will also uh, mm, make the dog feeling that you are very present, paradoxically, very reliable and present, paradoxically, if you have that type of feeling. Yeah,
Reliability. Because if
reliability,
the dog
right?
doesn't trust you and you're not reliable,
Yeah, yeah,
then it cannot trust you in return. If it doesn't trust you, it
yeah,
gets trapped.
yeah,
If it's trapped, it has to
yeah,
respond. And if he responds, you will correct him. So
yeah,
I think as a closing message, I would say if you, for example, take a dog out for a walk, the leash is not the primary connection to your dog. Your emotions are. If you feed your dog, the food is not the primary thing that's going on. It's you sharing what you have with your dog. If you hang on the couch or have your dog on your bed, it's not your being comfortable on the bed. It's about you sharing affection with your dog.
yeah,
So we see all these things. Once you have to become aware of how you feel, then is where the dog comes in and says, "Hey, I feel too. Let's share that emotion right now." As long as he doesn't need to be forced into that relationship. Most of the pets we have in the house living in a forced relationship. They are being adopted without their choice. They're being put together with other dogs without their choice. They have to confront, you know, things that in real life they haven't done it. They don't do that. They're not coming in forced relationship. They're coming in voluntary relationships. They don't like you, they walk away. In Bali, I think if you're there and he doesn't like you, he just walks away. Can you chase him? No, he's gonna make a left turn and he's
absolutely,
gone, right?
absolutely,
But you have that
Abs-
dog who will follow you at the beach and play with his friends at the beach, and you are part of that game. And I have goosebumps just thinking how you would feel there at that beach, having those guys choose you, being next to you, playing with you, sharing their time with you, feeling safety and security with another species. I wouldn't feel comfortable being next to an alien, staring at me with his big eyes. I was like, dude, why are you staring at me? No, they feel comfortable. And there's no other species that does that. And that's not accidental. So, Christine Irene says, very true. I'm always thinking about her and checking in with her mentally, physically, making sure she's okay. If I'm busy, she's still part of me and my mind and heart. Yeah, you guys share emotions here. And that dog who lives with you is not accidentally coming with you. Yes, you picked him up, but the moment you have that emotional relationship, you're downloading a whole program through this animal collective into your home, and you have to deal with that shit.
yeah.
Thank you so much for everybody who's
Thank
watched
you,
today.
thank
And
you, Roman. Thank you
right,
very
so
much.
what are we up to next or very soon? We're up to
Yeah,
something. You want to talk about that before it's not coming from me, right? What are we talking
w-
about next time? We're going to talk about how food can affect your dog to the point of aggression. And I kind of go to an extreme example. How do you feed your dog aggressive? So you have experience to that, and I'm about to finish up an article.
yeah,
And I would like to sit together and get a couple of people on board who are, more um, into the nutritional aspect. And we're gonna talk about how food affect dogs in the shelters, how food affect dogs and pets, and how food affect dogs being free. Why dogs in the freedom are not so aggressive than our dogs in home, and why dogs in the shelters are having hard time struggling with their emotions and their body, we should look into that. So
Yeah.
I'm not saying it's yet because we're still kind of collecting data and it's very scientific based conversation. We will talk about our personal experiences. We talk about how we solve problems dealing with such behaviors, but also we look into the scientific aspect and see what is out there and try to connect those dots and put them together in one concept. How can we feed our dog away from aggression without physically doing anything with that dog? Nothing. Just give him that opportunity to become healthy and less frustrated and less stressed. And I think a healthy belly makes a good behaved dog, at least 30% of the time.
Looking forward to
Ciao.
talk more soon. Ciao. Grazie.
Ciao.
Thank you. And thank you to everybody. Thank you. Bye
Yeah,
bye.
you too.
Bye bye.
Bye-bye.
This is Coffee with Holistic Dog Professionals. Learn from Roman and David how to become your dog's best friend.